Hello, I'm Kamali, taking you through the stories people are talking about and sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. What would you do if you were Mark Zuckerberg? We go to Trump Valles in Macedonia. Malaysia to pass a law to jail people for fake news. And breaking news, a cat was stuck up a pole, not the start of a joke, but an actual thing watched by thousands live online. Well, at the top of the news feed, and it's Facebook again. Now, Mark Zuckerberg says he will speak in person to US lawmakers in what is already the most anticipated appearance at one of those hearings since probably Oliver North during the Iran-Contra affair in the 80s. But amazingly, he's refused to speak to the UK version. Now, he said he'll send an underling, which has had UK politicians fuming, especially after the evidence they heard yesterday claiming the EU referendum may have been won through fraud. Dana Lewis has been looking into it.
What's on your mind? That's the first question your Facebook page asks. And a lot of people want to know what's happened to their data and their friends' data, because we're all reading these reports that indicate probably your Facebook data was used in the American election campaign to give Donald Trump a little extra edge. And now we're hearing in the United Kingdom through a parliamentary committee that in fact it may have swayed the Brexit vote in favor of the Leave campaign, the vote to take the United Kingdom out of the European Union. All of this coming from Chris Wylie, the main whistleblower, who appeared in front of the parliamentary committee yesterday, and he said, look, a group of companies, SCL in the United States, AIQ in Canada, and Cambridge Analytica were set up, and that they worked together to skirt election laws and election spending laws. And it is a scandal here. Chris Wylie says Brexit vote was in fact a fraud, to use his terms. And that's why everybody wants to hear from the face of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, come here, testify, and explain what role did Facebook have in any of this.
Well, as he said, Mr. Zuckerberg is not going to do that, but their problems don't end with the US and the UK. The head of privacy for the government of New Zealand has deleted his Facebook account. He says the company has violated his country's privacy laws. Now, of course, there has been the obligatory trolling on Twitter, and my producer picked out some of these beauts. Now, this one says, everyone on social media be like, I'm so mad at Facebook, I'm deleting my Facebook and only using Instagram. Facebook be like, we own Instagram. Insert diabolical Zuckerberg laugh. And Mark Zuckerberg was born in 1984. Coincidence? Well, that left us asking, who should be regulating social media? A can of digital worms has been opened, and we'll chat more about that in a minute. But first, let's take a look at what else is trending on social media. Another K-pop singer has died, and this is Seo Min-woo, and he was 33. He was hugely popular in the band 100%. His death was said to have been a heart attack. At the end of last year, another K-pop star, Kim Jong-hyun, committed suicide. Now, this cool video is from the Old Vic Theatre in London, and it's been watched and shared thousands of times. It's just a time-lapse of sets changing and shows the work that goes into each bit of set design. Very nice. And hashtag #WhoBitBeyonce, a rumour from a party in 2017 has caused Twitter detectives to speculate wildly about who it was who bit Beyonce in the face after an altercation involving Jay-Z and another woman, perhaps a single lady. And Kit Kat in the US jumped on the trend for some clever cross-advertising. Remember, Bey's got a song called Kitty Cat. Now, you will have heard about the way that groups organised the spread of online misinformation during the US election of 2016. Well, many of those groups were based in Macedonia, and Ivica Latic has been to a town where these groups are so well known, it's been dubbed Trump Valles.
This is Valles, a small town in central Macedonia that became internationally famous for its fake news industry. Now, dozens of fake websites were tracked here in Valles during the last few weeks of US election campaign back in 2016. Most of these websites favored Donald Trump, so some even call this place now Trump Valles. Now, these website owners, fake website owners, are usually young men, teenage boys, who just wanted to earn some quick money, because the situation when it comes to jobs is desperate, and the average salary in Macedonia is around $400 and some of these men manage to earn more than $2,500 per day. Now, they don't like to speak to camera that much, they like to keep their identity closed, but we managed to talk to someone who helped them to create this fake news industry here in Valles.
Maybe very few of the site owners are familiar with American politics. You know, if someone finds a good source for articles, let's say one of them is Breitbart, InfoWorld, Conservative 101, Liberty Writers, the whole process goes like this. Lots of these medium have, they run social media as well for their websites, for their articles, and if the owner of the site from Valles sees on, let's say, Facebook or Twitter page that this article of, let's say, Liberty Writers is popular, has many shares or retweets, he would, that's the main criteria to take this article, copy and paste it on their website.
The government of Malaysia are planning to give people as long as 10 years in prison for disseminating fake news. We'll discuss that in a moment. First of all, this. All right, well, let's talk to TRT World's Sood Haider. Now, Sood, there are, of course, things that are true and things that are false, but who should decide what fake news is?
It's a complex problem, and this is a problem that has been with society since time immemorial. You know, Pope Francis actually alluded to the incident of Adam and Eve being misled by a snake in Christian theology. So it's tough. Societies have over time been able to cope with this mechanism. I think the reason why it's an issue right now is because of the complexity and scale of fake news or fake information proliferating into people's news feeds, mobile devices, and chat applications.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's tough. Should the government regulate it? It depends on the context, and each country should actually figure out how best to solve the problem themselves.
I mean, I guess the thing we have to remember is that we're approaching this new every time. We've never been in a world like this before. In Malaysia, I guess their government is just the beginning. The French have laws in the pipelines. The Americans have similar laws. Do you think we're about to start to see a stifling of free speech online?
For sure, and policymakers who have been sleeping on the job for over the last couple of years, because the change what we've seen is at no time have people become so much more connected than we are in 2018, and they're trying to play catch up. But I think the easy excuse is to curtail free speech on the basis of tackling fake news, and regulation to a certain extent won't solve all the problems. It's a multi-stakeholder approach has to be used, and where people engage with the actual platforms and the technologies that are actually facilitating the spread of fake news. Society has to be involved at all levels with more awareness problems, but policy just by itself or regulation wouldn't quite fix the problem.
And because we must, it seems like every couple of minutes we mention this word Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg. Now, he says, as I said earlier, that he's going to speak to US politicians, but had turned down the chance of speaking to ones in the UK. I mean, how do you see the company changing in the coming months and years? I did hear something that they were going to be regulated like they're a utility.
So yeah, there are talks of regulation, and Mark Zuckerberg chooses to speak to US legislators and not to UK legislators and send an underling to go and represent him. I mean, Facebook is domiciled in the Silicon Valley, it's domiciled into the US. There is a lot of US culture and Silicon Valley culture that makes the ethos of Facebook. And it is what it is. I mean, they're the biggest social network out there. Will it be regulated like a utility? There are calls for it, but it's almost impossible to regulate it because of how Facebook has grown. And I think because people are comparing it to the incident with Microsoft, where Microsoft, because of antitrust, was forced to scale down and split its businesses. In the case of Facebook, it's tough because nothing like this has ever existed before. So more creative solutions are going to have to be thought about by all stakeholders to fix this problem. Regulation just wouldn't fix it. And it's not in everyone's interest to overly regulate Facebook, bearing in mind that the same politicians who are calling for Facebook's regulations are the same politicians who use Facebook to mobilize voters, or some of them also purportedly use Facebook to spread misinformation.
Absolutely. It's interesting times ahead. I'm sure we'll talk about it again soon. Thank you for joining us. All right, let's take you around the world for some other stories you need to know this Wednesday. Called it. Kim Jong-un was in Beijing yesterday. As Oscar reported for us, this was likely the precursor to his meeting with President Donald Trump. Maybe President Xi was, as well as talking about nuclear disarmament, giving Kim tips on how to deal with that Trump handshake. I suggest a fist bump. A group of cyber criminals called SamSam are continuing their attacks on the US city of Atlanta. The group have hacked the city's systems and demanded payment before they're accessible again. People have been unable to pay their water bills or parking tickets. Now, it was reported that they have paid so far $51,000 to the hackers. This is Neves Coleman. He worked for the Chicago White Sox as a groundskeeper until he was jailed for a crime he didn't commit 23 years ago. That was in 1994. He was just released for wrongful conviction, and the Sox gave him his job back. And staying in the Shy, a 98-year-old nun is dominating the finals of the US College Basketball Championship. Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt is chaplain for the Loyola University Chicago Ramblers and goes to every game. She played ball herself, but now scouts and uses her well-earned wisdom. And former President Obama has tweeted about her, saying he had faith in his pick. And I don't even know what to say, just watch this. Well, this happened at Ayaza metro station here in Istanbul. The man, Mehmet Ali Erik, was trapped for an hour, but thankfully rescued without serious injuries. Another reason to take the stairs, not just to keep fit, but to avoid escalators trying to eat you. Now, there are lots of people out there who believe things that are just not true. One vocal group of these types are called flat earthers. And one of them, not for the first time, has attempted to prove his incorrect notion true with hilarious results. Now, sometimes the internet, I don't know, we've talked about fake news and trolls and stuff, but this is what it's all about. What you're looking at is a live stream of a cat stuck up a pole. This live stream went on for more than an hour and a half, and thousands of people watched and watched and watched as Gypsy the cat chilled, stretched, and licked itself atop a pole. Eventually, as you saw, someone climbed a ladder and got the cat. The internet. Well, that's all from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, and complaints and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Follow, subscribe, and add, and I will see you tomorrow.